little soft intro, and we'll get rocking. Welcome to Out of Home Insider. Today's guest is Rod Rackley. Rod is the president of the Out of Home division for Circle Graphics, the world's largest producer of grand and large format digital graphics. An engineer by training, Rod doesn't just understand the advertising ecosystem. He's developed systems for advertisers to consistently get their printing done quickly, affordably, and at the highest quality available. Rod's also an entrepreneur himself, helping build Anthem Displays, a digital billboard manufacturer based here in the United States, providing a viable alternative to Chinese manufacturers with 250 digital billboards already entertaining communities around the country. Without further ado, Rod, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Tim. It sounds like you may have talked to my mom to get some of those talking points. I have a fan out there, at least. I appreciate it. And listen, I want to thank you for what you're doing. You probably don't get paid every day for what you're doing, but I've really enjoyed, since I've been back in the industry, watching your podcast and seeing the connection you have and promoting it out of home to the industry and our little ecosystem. So thanks to you.
Well, I appreciate that, and I look forward to being a part of it as we continue forward. Continuing forward, though, right, we've got to understand where we started from, and you've got an interesting story, right? You're a Louisiana guy, started out with Lamar. How'd you break into the out-of-home business?
Well, I graduated from Stanford in engineering and thought I was going to stay out there in the Bay Area. But I moved back to Louisiana to work in my family's business, which was a publishing company. And then, like a lot of family businesses and perhaps two strong-headed guys in the same room, my dad and I decided we couldn't work together. But then I didn't really know what to do. I just gotten married. I enrolled in Tulane's executive MBA program. And a good friend of mine, the former CFO of Lamar, a guy named Jack Rome, said, let's go have lunch with Kevin Riley Jr. And so we had lunch, and I told him I wanted to do some internships at a bigger company. I was still in my 20s. And he said, well, I'll give you a job for $9 an hour. You can help me with some projects. I think he was bidding on a wireless TV spectrum at the time. Within 5 or 6 months, he decided to take Lamar public. And this was in 95. And man, I just couldn't be more grateful for that opportunity. Learned a lot. I remember we'd go up and help write the prospectus in New York while you're studying it on the weekend in business school. It was a pretty unique time for me. And then I got a chance to work with Sean Riley and Bob Switzer at Lamar. We did something like 400 acquisitions over that first 5 or 6 years, deployed almost $2 billion to roll up a lot of the industry. It became either you were a buyer or seller in that time. And thanks to Lamar, one of Lamar's great leaders, Kevin Riley Sr., we were just big enough to be one of the big boys. So I did that for 10 years. When I was about to turn 40, I wanted to do something a little more entrepreneurial, and a guy named Hank Ridless and I had become friends, and Hank had started Circle Graphics and was printing out here in Colorado, and was doing some posters for Lamar, and Bob Switzer and I came out and looked at the operation. They were doing a good job for Lamar, and decided to move the family out here to Colorado. It's been a good move. We've enjoyed it. I spent another 10 years. I said I'd spent my 30s at Lamar, my 40s at Circle the first time. Took a little break when we had sold to a private equity firm in 2012, and got my daughter through high school. That was a really great time. And she went back to college. I said, I'm kind of bored at 55. I probably should do something else. And have enjoyed going back to Circle. And working with my friend Andrew Cousin, who's a great CEO, and Circle's a great company. We've got another division that's remarkably up 200% during COVID. It's our wall decor business, where people are home saying, "I need something to refresh that picture of my kid when they were in junior high. They're in college now." So we've seen a real remarkable uptick in that business, which I have nothing to do with. But it's nice. It's nice to soften the blow of some of the downturn in COVID. So anyway, I'm back. There's a great team at Circle. We're excited to sort of re-engage on a number of fronts and try to get back to a place at the top of the mountain and be of service just like you are. Sorry if that was a little long.
No. It was all the right pieces, and I really love having you on the show because a lot of the conversation, it's about digital, it's about programmatic, it's all of these things. But fact of the matter is 4-to-1 is still static inventory. We still need to print a lot of beautiful creative. What can we be doing differently just in the conversation to encourage advertisers to consider the power of static design?
Well, I think it's a great question because most of the sizzle, even at an industry conference, is about digital. But there's a lot of weight that can be delivered in a static campaign. A lot of exclusive messaging, not sharing the board with anyone. I think there's certainly going to have to be some better strategies to use static. The product is remarkable. It looks beautiful. Every printer produces a very nice print. I think people are amazed that that don't know the industry, how inexpensive production is for that large of a tapestry. But digital has also put pressure on the static workflow. We have to be more efficient. We can't have a national advertiser have a great experience with our medium, particularly on the digital side, and say, no, I don't do static. That's a pain in the butt to get on the street. The workflow has to be dramatically simplified. I saw where Dave Westberg had made this point in his blog today, that we've got to quit shuffling spreadsheets around and then calling for specs to the billboard companies. So we have to do a national spec database. We have to make this workflow mirror digital. They've raised the bar where someone can execute a campaign from their desk, in a matter of hours or certainly a week. And so production of static needs to do the same thing, and we can. We've just been talking about it for a long. We were talking about it most of my first tenure, and we're still talking about it. Some folks have done a good job. I know you've had my friend John Laramie on at Project X. They've done a good job. AdQuick's done a good job. Some of these others, but we have to do even better. And I think Circle's doing our part. We have 4 factories. We have API integration. We are building this national spec database. But I just fear that there's too much friction in the process still. So we were doing a good job. You could have gone to an OAAA show. Tim, you're too young, but you could have gone to an OAAA show 15 years ago, and they were talking about what, they had the panel of buyers up on the stage. What can we do to get more of your ad share? Well, you got to remove friction in the process. It's too difficult to buy. I mean, we've been talking about it for 20 plus years. We actually just need to do something about it. Okay. And I think the media companies are doing what they can do in terms of softening up, putting their veils online, getting over this psychological hump of, my God, they'll know, too much about our business. Printers have to do what we can. Buyers have to do what they can. But we really need to do it this time because the internet's a very efficient process, and getting stuff on a street needs to be mirror that, I think.
It's funny. I had a conversation with a student who's doing his grad work, and he's doing a capstone project on financial analysis on out of home. So I thought that was kind of cool, right? Here's a young person who's studying the financial aspect of our business. And he asked that question. He said, why are operators so hesitant to put, inventory availability, pricing, things like this? So even from an outsider's observation, he's observing the friction in the industry, and he has zero experience. He's never worked a day in this business, just from a purely analytical standpoint, identifying friction. And when we think about where a lot of the money's going, it's really easy to spend money on a Facebook ad or a Google ad. So it's good to hear that you guys are addressing how do we remove some of the friction in this process so that we can get more money, make it easy for people to spend money, and they'll spend more money with you. I love something that you're quoted as saying, right? Speed, quality or price. You shouldn't have to pick two. You should be able to get all three. How do you deliver that? Is it a philosophy? Is it a process? Is it a little bit of both?
No, those are table stakes. That's an old school way of thinking that you can get 2 out of 3. Probably very real. But it starts internally. You have to, your team, both production team, your sales team, your customer service team has to know that those are the table stakes, that it has to be a quality product. It has to be fast. It has to be a fair price. And there's a lot of excess capacity in our industry, Tim. Anyone, you and I could go buy a 5-meter printer, and either your garage or mine, we could set up and be printing bulletins, the next day. No question about it. So there's not a huge barrier. So all these other things matter. We've got a board this morning going on Sunset Boulevard with a post date of Monday, and we're going to print that today, ship it. It'll be in LA tomorrow morning, and it'll be posted. But that can't be like, pulling a lot of strings. That just needs to happen, particularly when you're in a recession or a downturn, because you have a rep running in. I got a sale. Then it's got to be on the street. Whereas if we're in the good times, then you have less demand. But I want to go back to something you said on the ad spend too. And another thing you would have heard 20 years ago at AAA is we're going to go from 4% of the ad spend to 8% like they have in Europe. And yet we don't. We may have clawed up a little bit, but and that's probably attributable to digital. But we need to finally do some things, and I'm certain that the powers that be are considering that, but it's going to be through removing friction, making it easy to buy, and getting an ad on the street, quicker and faster. I think I'm not say cheaper. That's sort of our point about it. I hate these downturns. Did you know that in 08 and 09, yes, it was terrible, but it took until 2014 to get those ad rates back. So I sympathize with the media guys. You drop rate and it takes you forever to claw that back at 2% a year, on a big spender. So it's a tough time, certainly for these guys. And there's a lot of smart people at Clear Channel and out front, Lamar, the big guys who are really trying to hold the rates in this particular time. So a little bit all over the place there, but we're all go back to the same thing. Let's remove friction, make it easier to buy, so people will take a chance on out of home more than they have been.
Considering what we have ahead of us in terms of removing that friction, just working together to sort of shore up some of the fragmentation that's inherent with our industry, what are some things that will always work? Are there 2 or 3 things that have stood the test of time that are important for out of home to carry forward as we go through this transition?
I think in no particular order. I think product standards, are helpful. Some very smart people, put some nice standards in place in terms of the rectangles and the proportionality of those, bulletin, junior bulletin, the poster, junior poster. We need to keep standards front and center, particularly on digital imagery. This production spec database is another area that I think we need to solve. There's not that many ways that a Clear Channel cable system poster should be made, and that spec really shouldn't change. Or a wrap, does it really matter? Do you have a 4-inch pocket or a 3-inch pocket with a 6-inch bleed on a 1448? Why do they have to be so different around? I had a really pleasant conversation with Kim Frank at Geopath a few weeks ago, because I hadn't really formally reintroduced myself to her. But so you got these Geopath IDs. They have the lat and the lawn. They have the impressions. They have the really important stuff. I get it. But that record should tail off to the right with information on that particular face, what the product spec is for that face, if it does have a special bleed, if it does have a special finishing requirement, if it's a wall, what are the T-pocket requirements so that it gets hung and doesn't fly off? Where does it ship to? Oh, it ships to New York, but does their mass peth office up in another state or a different area? These are things that every printer deals with, and they are each solving on their own, some better than others. But if they don't have that information, I guarantee you, the New York sales office of some of these big out-of-home companies gets production shipped to them because someone looks up their address on the internet and ships it to them. So mercifully we don't, but it is, that to finish my point, then I think that the product spec database should reside at GeoPath and should be in this record, and that everyone should be able to access it so that out of home is it's easier to buy. And so Kim was fair. She goes, yeah, it makes sense to me. Let's do it. And then you get into, well, not every panel does have a GeoPath, is not audited. So I'm beating this drum a little bit these days about this national spec database, just because if we do it, which we're going to probably be forced to do, then and unfortunately, although I'd love to, we don't print everything. So then, who else is everyone going to have to build their own database? Are the people at Clear Channel, some poor guy or gal at Clear Channel is answering the phone from printers saying, okay, I'll send you that spec for the 50th time. So those are sort of in the trench issues, and maybe not as of interest as much to some of your listeners. One thing that I'm excited about is this proof of performance. So talk about friction in the process. I remember when I first started at Lamar, I went up to Tommy Teeple's desk, and he had a stack of Polaroids for proof of performance that some agency had been hounding them so that they would pay the bill that was probably 3 or 6 months past due. And they needed proof of performance, and so they took a 12-month proof of performance pictures to prove that it had been up. And I remember flipping through the Polaroids, and I said, Tommy, does it bother you that this bird is in the same position on this picture 12 times in a row? That bird shows up every month at the same time. So it's always been a bit of a game on proof of performance, and it hasn't gotten that much better. I mean, we're still emailing stuff around. The poor ops guys have to hang it, and then, all right, where's my camera? They take a picture of it. Then that's got to find its way into an email and it's sent to the agency. So one company that's doing a great job of sort of rationalizing that, just like many people have done on the front end with the buying and getting the panels, getting the proposals, and God knows, getting the rates identified, locking the rates in, going back and forth. But the back end has been a little ignored. And so POP Tracker, POP Tracker, run by a great guy and a friend of mine, Tom Cherry, they've solved this back end piece. They have mobile apps where the Lamar, the Clear Channel are out front ops person. And I'm sorry to focus on the big three, but anyone can use it that gets a national buy. They take a picture, a close up, a glamour shot, distant shot, loads up to the system, and now it's there. It's date and time stamped, and it verifies that it went up on time, or went up early, or it stayed up later, for extra credit. And so we're working a partnership with those guys. I think it's a nice piece to have the production and the POP together. The production, we only own it for a week and a half, and then it gets handed off. We think it's, we're all important. We're a very small piece to this value chain of getting a campaign up on the street quickly. But with this partnership with Pop Tracker and an initiative called Full Circle, an agency specialists will now have the ability to hit submit on that buy. We get via API, we get the order, we go after the creative, we get the creative approved, it goes up on the street, Pop Tracker takes over. They now have proof that it went up. And it's going to be a slick system to match what I think are world-class systems on the front end, getting the order in the house. And then, as you're an expert at, then you can figure out the attribution now that it's up on the street, and how long it's been up, how many people saw it. So I think we're coming along with a better workflow. And the big three could solve the problem, and they've spent a lot of money doing it. But just like I'd like to print everything and they'd like to post everything, the most big national buys are across the big three. And the data then needs to be integrated up for those guys into a common system, so that agent, and then into media ocean, is the final step for a lot of these agencies, into the master platform. So we're compliant with all of those, capturing all the right fields. And again, I'm a little apologetic for hijacking, but this is something I've been working on pretty intensely for the last month during the downturn to understand the workflow and try to get some solutions in place. First and foremost, recognizing we don't really ourselves need a great system. We have My Circle; it's a great system, but no one's saying, "Man, I can't wait to buy out of home so I can use Circle's or online order system." The less they have to interface with that, the better. Frankly, they just want it printed and up on time. So I know we talked a little bit about Pop Tracker. I'd encourage you to maybe talk to Tom at some point and understand that back end piece. He spent 6 years, millions of dollars developing this software, and I think it's a pretty slick system. A lot of agencies love it when they use it to track a campaign. I know Talon used it for a Wendy's campaign recently. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. And as I first started to get my break into this industry that is out of home, I had a great conversation with Rick Robinson, and I asked him, what are the most important things that I can do for your planners, for your buyers? What can I do that's most helpful? And the thing he emphasized the most was get us a good, clean proof of performance photo and get it quickly. And that sort of set for me the ball in motion. And I said, well, how can I do that from a local level, here in Eastern Pennsylvania? So I went out, I got a dash cam for my truck so I could just drive past and get a nice shot of it, right? But it was when I started to explore that, I'm like, how is this not easier? How is it the idea of I should be driving down the highway at 70 miles an hour with a digital camera in my lap trying to take a picture of this thing? That's crazy. So to know that there's a solution out there, I think that's great because it creates that accountability and the transparency in what we do for someone who's buying it, and at scale to be able to roll it out to some of the biggest buyers, the biggest campaigns, the biggest agencies, getting adoption there, and then creating that demand down to the local level. It sounds like a great solution for something that will create confidence in buying out of home. Is this something that is timeline, or is this already out? Are you guys already doing this?
No, we're building it. We're finalizing the dashboard, which is really a glimpse of information into both our systems, presented in a way that an agency or specialist would want to see it. And we talked to certainly the folks at Phillips, told them this was coming. So we're probably 5 to 6 weeks out. But it's been wireframed. We know there are no hurdles other than just programming the thing out. And the goal here would be, okay, don't have to pay separate people. We're gonna, we'll print the thing, and Pop Tracker will come along as a benefit of that relationship, so that the agency doesn't get hit with another bill. But I like it because it's not theoretical. Getting things executed and over the line in my career has proved to be, if you don't get in there and fight every day to get a good idea across the finish line, then it just becomes another good idea that wasn't executed. That's why they don't sign NDAs in Silicon Valley for ideas anymore. Everyone's got a good idea, but this thing is already done. The operations people, who are the keys to this in all things, really, it seems, are taking the pictures already with the handheld app on their iPhone or smartphone and uploading them. So it's already happening. Now we just need to pull it in and get it executed. And then there's some, there'll always be some little issues. Do we really want to track 1,000 shelters across the 5 boroughs? Are we going to take, do they want that? No, I think then there becomes a representative sample of a large campaign. But for most things, a big wall in Dallas, I want to see a picture of it when it's posted. I want to see what it looks like from a glamour shot. And we don't need guys, out there driving and taking pictures. The operations guys ought to be taking it at the time it was installed, because it's a key piece of, of their workflow and completion. So anyway, I think that's a big one for us on the agency side. We've also got some, I talked a lot about the big three, but we've got some interesting programs for the independent billboard operators. Just little things, Tim. Have you ever seen? I'll send you some of them. Have you ever seen our little metal billboard frames?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, you'll get some. I apologize. I don't have one on my desk here, although. But we've got. I think it's a great way. Billboard sales reps have for years taken a mini print of their billboard, and they're nice metal desktop frames. They go back and say, "Thank you for your campaign last month. What are we going to do in the fall?" Sales 101. So we're gonna make those available, and along, if you give us your print job, you'll get a mini insert and a billboard for the special program with these independents, because it's just a great sales tool to get out and get back in front of your customers. And I've walked through agencies in New York, and you see our metal billboard frames in Denver. Any agency you have there, of all the tchotchke they put up, they love these very cool metal billboard frames. And I'm not talking about something that's dinky that falls over when you walk past it. These you could club someone on the head with these things. They're nice.
No,
so you'll have some by early next week.
I got one actually. I was a client of Adams before I ended up working at Adams, and my AE brought me one. Now that you talk about it, and I had it on my. I thought it was so cool. I thought it was awesome.
But even that, the effort to do that in an AE's, an account exec or a rep's day. Shoot! I forgot. I got it now. I got to order that. I got to get my creative guy to print out on a color printer. Then I got to stick it on there, put the frame together. So listen, these are not high-tech solutions here. And I'm sure people are rolling their eyes, but every little thing helps when you're trying to stand out. What the hell does a radio person give their customer? Do they go to the trouble of audio equipment? No, we're a visual medium, so let's give them evidence of it. And then ask to get back in front and have them have that reminder of a successful campaign. So 1,000 little things.
Retail is in the detail, as they say.
Okay, I like that. You haven't asked, but I'll give you a quick update just on what we're seeing. It looks like April was probably the worst month. We climbed back a little bit in May, and June is looking pretty good. We've been down single digits, double digits now, but low double digits, and transit's still a tough story out there. Those guys are getting clobbered, but I think as a function of some of these companies doing more local business, even if national's off. And my sales rep, we had a bring down call Wednesday. And they're starting to see some pickup. Reporters starting to quote stuff. I was disappointed to hear Publicis had closed their New York office for like the rest of the year, but I guess that's just a function of waiting in line for an elevator. But starting to see some quotes on the national level. Local business certainly picking up, and then transit, I think, it's going to take longer to come back.
Yeah, it's great. I think that a lot of the listeners are going to be happy to hear that. We've got a lot of folks tuned in that are in the business development side, the sales side of the business, and everyone's kind of asking everyone, "Hey, what are you hearing? What are you hearing? How are things for you? Are things picking up?" So that's good, and I appreciate you sharing that piece of feedback. As an entrepreneur, as a business leader, this has really been a master's class on running a business in a time where there is no playbook. If you had to put your finger on like one key takeaway from this time frame, what would you say it is?
Well, we're a private equity owned company, and that having been involved with this company before private equity and after, and then taking a break and doing a startup. Private equity brings a lot of discipline to the process. Those guys basically have to bet on a company, and then they have to bet on management, and then they have to hold management accountable for the things that we said we would do. And I have no problem operating in that world, but that is the world. Okay, you have some smart people, and so the levers that they have are in sort of understanding the business, the addressable market in the business, and then trying to understand the people, and then bringing in the right people. Even coming back to a position that I had been successful at before, I went through a pretty rigorous, which I liked, and my earlier self might not have liked it, but my wife even said to me on a trip that I was heading down to Miami, she said, "Are you getting tired of this?" I said, "No, I love it. These guys, I love, anyone that knows the industry and can talk shop, just like you. I see, that smile break out on your face. I love talking about out-of-home business." But there's a discipline that you have to operate in that environment. And when this thing hit, I was really impressed because you didn't know. Early March, you still got your vacation plans you're talking about, and this and that. I think our CEO was doing, had a tablet of acquisitions he was looking at. But the discipline that those guys brought, which not every company has, was, guys, you need to plan for a big downturn. Okay. And so we planned early, and I felt like sort of one of the big boys, we conserved cash. We did the right things. So that's important, as opposed to putting your head in the sand and not, I'm not sure what's going to happen. So I think we did the right things there. I would not have done that on my own, I would say. Other than that, I always address the recession as a time to improve, because when you're blowing and going, in January, when we're making plans for huge growth year and what have you, it's tough to ask your people to take our top 5 projects and let's re-engineer these processes and do this, and because there's not much time to do it. So in a downturn, don't knock off early from work. Get to your to-do list. Mine's 19 pages long, for God's sakes. Get to the to-do list and let's knock off some stuff, because this is the time. This is the time to kind of get it, implement it, and be ready to roll when we come out of this. So, and then I try not to do things a lot different. I was always amazed when I was your age about how a guy could go, and in my case, it was Scully. When Scully went from Pepsi to Apple, okay, but that famous line that Steve Jobs said, you're going to sell sugar water for the rest of your life. You're going to come help me change the world. And I went to college with Scully's kid, so I was kind of in tune to that whole move back then. You probably weren't even born, but I was always amazed at how someone could go from selling sugar water to running a computer company, and you see that all the time. Wait, that guy was in the apparel business and now he's doing this in the IT business. But it's because they have a set of principles. They have great people skills. They're great leaders. They know how to get things done. And so it's more of your habits that you acquire in your work career that are going to take you through. You don't have to stay in one industry, but you do have to develop skills that are repeatable in a certain work philosophy and leadership style. So you have the bug, my friend. You're never going to get out of the out-of-home business, and I'm glad for it. And I won't either. But we could. You could take your skills somewhere else if you had to, and your ability to reach out and talk to people, which I love seeing. So you're gonna make it, Tim. I'm confident of that.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm a car guy. I grew up in the car business. I sold cars. I worked in the service department. I drove the parts truck. I moved the cars in the parking lot. I was in the Marine Corps, logistics background. My degree is in finance, but I love out of home. And I just want to draw emphasis to everything that you just shared, because the folks that are gracious enough and have done interviews on this show, all top leaders in our industry, right? And that's the same answer. In the framework of the answer, it's discipline, it's being a people first leader. It's not wasting this time, right? We've all been reduced to the same speed. If the speed limit is 35, we're all reduced to 35. We can't go faster than that. But it's your choice of whether or not you want to drive the speed limit or just take the time off and park the car and, hey, I'm going to hang out and eat snacks. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
And I want to thank you too. I'm not a big regrets guy, but one that I have is not serving in the military. So true, sincere thanks for your service.
Well, thank you for the support, and A patriot is a patriot at heart. So I appreciate you saying that. Rod, this is the final segment of the show. I'm calling it Questions from Carlos. Carlos Zavala, he's the marketing manager for InMotion Media. They do some pretty cool stuff, wrapping up some big trailers out in California. He said, Tim, can you start asking the guests some like same questions? Because it'd be cool to hear some of their unique answers. So, Rod, you down for that?
Absolutely.
Questions from Carlos. Now, I don't know if your answer, because my answer to this would be probably likely yours. But if you weren't in out of home right now, if out of home just disappeared, what do you think you would be doing?
Well, I'm probably real estate. I don't know why, but I think that's a fun industry. A lot of people skills, a little bit of, decent technical, but you're out and about and you can make a lot of money. So
it's a good answer.
Tell Carlos real estate for me.
We talked a little bit about what you're most excited about with Circle, with working with Pop Tracker and some of the great things coming down the pipe. Maybe personally, what are you most excited about?
That's a good one. Personally, I'm most excited about kind of this next phase with my family. My 3 siblings and I are spending more time with my parents, and as they age in place. And I always knew the time would come, but it's coming on us fast. And so I think just sort of working together to figure out some of the intricacies around that. That's really a kind of a give back. I think you have an opportunity in life. You receive a lot from your parents. My folks were always big about education. We'll pay for your education. And so I do that, with my kid, but it's tough to see them vulnerable, but at this point, but I also know that if I only talk to my parents once a week, that, my dad, really enjoys hearing from me every day. So I'm going to do that. They're 84 now. And so I'm excited about fulfilling that, loving obligation.
It's an honor. It really is.
Yeah.
How about are you a reader, a podcaster? Where do you go for inspiration, ideas, relaxation?
I'm a reader. I love to read. I read Charlie Miller at Burkhart taught me this. Like you get a book, like a hardcover book, and then you kind of struggle through it. He said, no, anytime I get a hardcover book and I want to read it, I just buy it on Kindle. But I read probably a book a week. Went through my World War II phase. I've read, if you can read 5 books on something, you're an expert. I've probably read 30 books on World War II. The problem is my memory's not great. So I have the equivalent of a 5-book knowledge on it. But no, I love World War II stuff. I'm in a guy's book club. Don't judge me.
Cool.
So we read, it's generally about, narrative biographies and things like that. So I enjoyed the Koch brothers book recently. Just because of all this political nonsense, I'm reading a book called The Righteous Mind, Why Good People Disagree About Politics and Religion and what have you. And that's been a fascinating book because I could be conservative myself, but I have, some people I really respect a lot are sort of on opposite sides of the political spectrum for me. And this book just talks about one of the reasons is they just, some people may feel, and you're probably like me, very patriotic. I was a team sport guy. I really took the crosstown rivalry seriously. Like I still don't like those guys, and from high school, and so some people just kind of carry that around. They're very patriotic. They're very loyal to a tribe. It's not that they don't care about fairness and equality. It's just it's not as important to them as the other things. And likewise, you may have a person that's that drives by a dead animal in the street and it ruins their day. A deer got hit. By God. Well, I grew up in Louisiana. I don't blink when I see that. But the point is that we all feel things, a little differently across this spectrum. And in this particular case, these 5 moral foundations. And I believe that's true. I believe that's true, that no one's a bad person. They value certain things a little differently. And it's not that the other people don't value them at all. Plenty of my, left-leaning friends are super, they're patriots, probably wouldn't go to war against someone else over ideas like that. But whereas, as we might. Anyway, that was a good book. And then I'm reading The Empire of Cotton right now, which is interesting in terms of, a little thing like cotton used to run the world.
Isn't that amazing?
And it's amazing. And another two other good books written by the same author, Cod and Salt, COD, which is about sort of a similar vein. These are not all by the same authors. Cod and Salt are by the same author, but talking about the role of salt in the world, and then cod. And one of the things that was interesting on cod was, like, Christopher Columbus, whose, I guess, statues they're tearing down now. He was by no means the first guy to see North America. Apparently the Basque, which is this little country in northern Spain. I married a Spaniard, so I know this Basque country. These people were amazing. The Basque, they invented whaling, iron making, and they were fishing for cod up in Nova Scotia, North America, for decades and decades before Columbus found it. They were like, "Hey, don't tell anyone you saw us here."
Right, it's the secret fishing hole.
Yeah, that's a fishing hole, and they would take it back, and sell it throughout Europe. And they were like, "Hey, don't tell anyone, we were here." So it's crazy, to learn about some of this stuff. But those are two good books if you have some extra time.
That's amazing.
All right, what else does Carlos have for us?
Well, those are the core questions. Let me see if there's a bonus here. Oh, okay, this is a fun one. It's the right question for you. If you could have a billboard anywhere of any type, what would it say and what would it be?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of an easy one for me. I probably learned it too late in life. I had a kind of a tragic week here, and I don't want anyone to feel sorry for me. I feel sorry for his family, but there was a fellow named Steve Bing who committed suicide on Monday in Los Angeles. And Steve and I went to Stanford together. And when Steve turned 18, he inherited $600 million. And that's a lot of money. And he dropped out of Stanford, which I don't blame him for. Had a sort of a great Gatsby life, and tragically took his own at relatively young age of 55. And Steve and I hadn't had contact in many years, but we were always good friends. He obviously traveled in a different circle than I did, but he was depressed, and that's a real thing. And I tell myself and my daughter, constantly that gratitude is the secret to happiness, is being grateful for what you have. And that's why the whole keep up with the Joneses and it's never enough. And there's always someone that has more than you if you're not grateful for what you have. So genuine gratitude is the secret, in my opinion, to success. That would be on a billboard somewhere. And I would hope that, that we could all truly understand that that's truth. Or as LeBron James says, those are facts.
Well, with that, I'm grateful for you doing this and being a part of the out-of-home insider movement, if it's such a thing. I really do appreciate it, Rob. Where can people find you, connect with you, learn more about Circle Graphics? Where's places to check out?
Well, the first part's easy, Rod, and then the last part is the longest URL known to the out-of-home industry, only because we couldn't acquire Circle Graphics. So it's Rod at circlegraphicsonline.com. And I'd certainly love to hear from anyone. Appreciate all my friends out in the industry. Let us know if we can help you. And then, Tim, I want to just say to you, if there's anything I can do for you, let's stay in touch. I appreciate your enthusiasm, and you're putting in your 10,000 hours as Gladwell says so famously, and really you need to put in 10, 20, 30,000 hours, but you're putting in your 10,000 hours, and it's going to pay off for you. And I'm going to be around for a few more years, so if I can ever help you, let me know, buddy.
Well, I appreciate it. I look forward to us being able to do this in person someday soon.
Yeah, same.
Very good. Well, don't forget to subscribe down there in the corner. If it's been helpful, please share it with your network. Share it with somebody who could benefit. And as always, if you want to get swagged up, you can visit oohswag.com. Don't forget to use promo code INSIDER for 10% off your first order. I'll see you guys next time.